So, welcome to our podcast, Slay Your Dragons with Compassion. I'm Malcolm Stern, and we've been doing these since last November. And I'm having some wonderful guests on these podcasts that we're doing. So, these podcasts are all done in conjunction with my very good friends at Online Events, and they're really sort of supporting it being something that gets out there. What we're very interested in here is the changes people have made in their lives, the challenges they've had to overcome. The podcast is called Slay Your Dragons with Compassion, which is after my book, which was after my daughter took her own life. I basically realized I had resources and that change was taking place in me, whether I liked it or not. And somehow, if we can marshal those resources and we can find a way to make those changes positive, everything that happens to us is part of the process that evolves us. So today's guest I was chatting to, I've only met once online before, is Nick Jarvis. And I was just fascinated by Nick's story because Nick went through an amazing sort of near-death experience and turned his life around as a result of that. So we're going to hear a little bit about that and what he's gathering as a result of that. So big welcome to you, Nick, and very good to have you here.
Thanks so much, Malcolm. So grateful to be on your podcast. Incredible. I'm just so grateful. Thank you.
Well, what I love is people who've changed their lives, who've turned their lives around, and I think there's something about that we get inspired. It's almost like we get into service, and for me, ultimately, um, Bob Dylan wrote, "You've got to serve somebody," and Rabindranath Tagore wrote that I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I woke and found that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. And there's something very strong in terms of the sort of sense of direction you've taken as a result of nearly losing your life and turning your life around. So you were an entrepreneur for a number of years, I believe, and
Yes, that's
and
correct. Yeah.
then you got COVID, and you got it when it was really bad. You got a really bad dose of COVID, and they thought you were going to die. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. It actually winds back even further than that. So if it's okay, I'll
Okay.
go even
Please
further
do.
back
Yeah.
than that. So originally, I came to this country 24 years ago now. I'm originally from South Africa, born and bred there. And basically, when I came here to the UK, I started to work as an engineer on the London Underground. And I was working like long shifts, like long night shifts. I'm talking about 18-hour type of night shifts, burning the candle both ends. And basically, I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I knew nothing about, I just knew, go to work, go to school, go to university, get a job, have kids, get a mortgage, and live your life in this type of linear kind of way, growth type of thing. Always trying to go for that higher kind of level, if you like. And so basically, I ended up burnt out, completely overwhelmed. I ended up in hospital, paralyzed, semi-paralyzed, from the neck down on the left side, with something called the Guillain-Barre syndrome, where my nerve endings attacked themselves. My nervous system attacked itself, and it affected my nerve endings. Still have tingling in my fingers to this day from that. And that was my first awakening moment where I realized something needed to change, because I was in this kind of situation where I didn't have any kind of direction in my life or purpose. Do you know what I mean?
That's very good actually, because very often I find that a lot of my guests and a lot of people that I work with have turned their lives around as a result of serious illness. That actually suddenly life doesn't look the same anymore. It's no longer what you described as linear, and actually something powerful happened to you. So you get this illness, you're partly paralyzed, and then what happens?
So basically, I ended up in hospital for three months at that point, reevaluating everything in my life. And basically, I went back. I started a self-development journey. I started to learn from people like Eckhart Tolle. I started to learn from people like, all these people who have tremendous followings and tremendous personal development journeys themselves. They've been there and they've done it and they've got the t-shirt, so to speak. So I started learning from the people who know best, if you like. And, I spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources, but also I expanded my metaphysical self, and I started to go on more of a kind of spiritual journey, personal development, and shifting the paradigm and the mindset. But I was still thinking in the way of growth, like linear growth type of thing. So I started to become an entrepreneur, started to acquire property, started to learn trading, started to do all these type of things to earn money where I could be, like in Kiyosaki's quadrant, he basically talks about the different quadrants, and you want to be in the investor slash business owner type of quadrants if you want to, make a lot of money. And I was still just thinking about money, growth at that point. And I continued that way. I started renting up my own property. I started renting out basically a room in a rented property, like subletting type of thing. And I realized, oh, this is lucrative. And I started doing this more. And then I started getting into HMO type of property. And then I started gradually building my property portfolio in this way, acquiring property. And also trading at the same time. But I realized I didn't have purpose. I didn't have any I got to this point where I realized I'm getting all this money and everything else, which is great, but I don't feel any different.
Now, that's very important, actually, Nick, because I think that's one of the key things that I've written about in my book, Slay Your Dragons, is that one of the things we need in life is purpose. That sense of purpose drives us forward. That sense of purpose gives us a reason to get up in the morning, not so that we can aggrandize ourselves or build a big shield around ourselves, but because we have a precious job to do in this life. And it feels like you found your way through quite a lot of adversity to your job. We'll come to what your work is now, which I find fascinating. But so there's your first bit, is the breakdown in health, and also there's something about accruing something before you give it up. It's one thing to sort of say, oh, I'm letting go of all earthly things when you haven't been there, but you started to get there, and then you realized that actually it didn't make you happy.
No. And the thing is, the way I think about it now is the way you come into this world is the way you're going to leave this world, with no material possessions. You're going to come in the same way you leave. But what is going to leave is what you can leave is a legacy and an impact that people remember you by. It's not what people, your reputation is based on what people say behind your back, not what's in front of you. So you want people saying the right things to help your reputation behind your back, and so obviously that is all about building up a real good personal brand and purpose behind that, having a reason to do something,
and clearly living in integrity as well. So that feels
100%.
So that's what sort of, it seems to be driving many of my friends and many of my colleagues and students these days, is that sense of integrity and authenticity. And that's what I got from you when I spoke to you a few weeks ago, is that I got a sense that you have found your purpose. And so you had one more big hiccup with health, with COVID. So perhaps you could just tell us a bit about that and what happened to you there.
Yeah, sure. So as I said, I was building these portfolios and everything else, and just thinking about my own monetary growth type of thing. And then I got COVID, and I ended up in ICU for 3 weeks, fighting for my life, basically being on ventilators and everything. And basically, I went into this deep meditation state because that's all I had left, basically. I couldn't have friends, I couldn't have family. It was during lockdown. I was in this kind of room, no air conditioning, these machines that just keep you sweating and everything else like that. Plus I had to top it off, I had a reaction to a beta blocker, which set my skin on fire, and basically my whole body was literally on fire. And literally after that, my whole body peeled. It was like a reborn virtually, like shedding the
A
old
lizard
skin.
shedding his skin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, my whole body peeled, and after that, and then when I came out of ICU, the doctors they showed me these X-rays of my lungs. And there's one tiny spot on the right-hand side of one of my lungs. The rest was completely black with this virus, and they said I shouldn't be here. They said you should not be here. That you are a miracle. And it was at that point that during those times in the hospital, I had so much time for meditation and everything. And this voice came through me, not from me, but through me. I get goosebumps now talking about it. But this voice came through me and whispered to me, "You're doing it wrong. You're thinking about yourself. You should be thinking about people and the impact you can have on other people outside of the traditional monetary systems." And this was like, whoa, this is like,
And so you weren't someone who was hearing voices regularly. This is like you
no.
your tether physically, and actually then something came through. And again, one of my other guests was drowning, and a voice came through him at that stage as well. And he turned his life around. So I'm hearing something very similar happened here. That you found something, and you talked about doing meditation. Had you already studied meditation before that?
Yeah, so I had done a lot of personal development and working with people, but I hadn't really gone deep into understanding the chakra systems and all these kind of modalities and all that kind of stuff. I just used to go on YouTube and listen to a meditation that I found type of thing that resonated with me. But I didn't really understand it, or it's just something that these people who I'd studied from said I should do. I was born a Catholic, and I was baptized and went to confirmation, all of that. And my mum jabbed me to church every single Sunday, and when I turned 18, I rebelled and I said, I'm not stepping back into a physical church. I have my faith and I have my, I will pray and everything at home and whatever, but I'm not going to go into a church type of thing. And I stuck with that. And for me, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person. And I'm very, how do I say, connected to my higher self, if you like, through, what I call God consciousness. And, so I believe things, there's a higher power, God power, but, I'm not religious in that sense, if that makes sense.
No, well, Carl Gustav Jung spoke about the cosmic consciousness, about tuning in to the consciousness. And when we do that, we go beyond our small self and we start to find that there is a lot more out there. So in effect, you went on a personal meditation retreat. It just happened to be in a hospital hooked up in a load of machines. Yeah. And actually you found the thing you could do in that space, which is to deeply go inside yourself. And actually what happened is that then the illness didn't get you in the way that the doctors expected it to get you. And a miracle happened. Now,
Yeah.
those things do happen. And I'm not saying they're every day. And actually interesting, Albert Einstein said, either everything is a miracle or nothing's a miracle. So there's something quite profound about that, being in a space where your body's basically turning in on itself and you're expected to die. And somehow you came through. And when we come through experiences like that, that's often when we make major life changes, which is what I believe happened for you after that. And so what are you doing now with this one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver puts it?
So yeah, just to go back to that point about the hospital and the curing of the COVID, that there's been. I was speaking to a university professor the other day that I work with in my donut economics NGO environment, and basically they said to me that any disease, whether it's cancer or whether it's COVID, instead of us trying to fight the cancer or fight the COVID, we should love the COVID. We should love the cancer, because it feels like it's not home if we're trying to make it a parasite of our body. So it's actually kind of it's kind of counterintuitive if you think about it, the way that it actually works. But the fact that I embraced what I had, that COVID, and I actually kind of went into this meditative state and was just a place of pure love through my, higher self, God consciousness, that I believe that I came out of COVID. And I think it's the same way cancer is going to be cured in the future as well, according to this professor. And there's lots of studies being done about this, that this is actually a way, the way to cure cancer is not to try and think of it as a parasite, but actually as a, part of you, living within you that is actually, if you give it love, it will actually go away naturally.
But the COVID was a part of you, and actually that part didn't, it left one tiny piece of your lung
Yeah,
untouched. That was enough to keep you going. So how long
keep
you
you
were in
going.
ICU for 2 weeks?
3 weeks. Three
Three
weeks I
weeks.
was in.
So three
Yeah,
weeks, you are basically, you have nothing to do except to go in.
yeah,
And most people in those situations freak out, but you didn't freak out. So something in you stayed very strong and stable, and actually found a way through that. So after
yeah.
you come through it, that the worst had happened. What happened then, Nick?
So basically, it actually in that hospital, I started writing. I started writing what was coming through me. It didn't make any sense to me. Actually, I need to wind back 10 years before that very quickly because I had a vision board. And if you're familiar with vision boards, you put your what you want in the future. And I wrote something called the currency of happiness. I had no idea what that meant back 10 years ago. And then, obviously I had all these kind of things with money and everything. I come from a very, how do I say, one side of my family was very poor and the other side was very wealthy, owning an oil refinery. So it was from one side, to the other type of thing, that kind of, so I was pulled between, I always thought rich people were like snobs, and I thought that they were, that they were greedy and this and that. And I had this very bad kind of omen with money, this very bad energy with money. Because at the end of the day, for me, money is energy. Everything in this world is energy transference. And so with that, it was like very strong for me that I needed to. The currency of happiness was something I wrote, as I said, 10 years ago. And now to this day, fast forward to today, this is what I'm now building, is a place where people can figure their purpose out in a, how do I say, safe environment, in a place where they're loved and they're not judged. There's no judgment, there's no labels, there's no hierarchy, there's no social classes. So everything that in traditional society, the status quo says we should have status, we should have a certain bank balance, we should have, the traditional way of, going to school, getting educated. I've gone against all those kind of norms, so to speak. And I've looked at ways, how can we empower people, everyday people, to have purpose so they don't have to go through all these crises, to have all these kind of, how do I say, what I've been through, basically, this.
So basically, you take your own journey, it educates you, and you then decide you're going to pass on the legacy of how you've been educated. And you had a rough ride,
Yeah.
Guillain-Barre syndrome plus COVID. You got a rough ride, but now you've created an organization, and it's called what is your organization called now?
So it's called the Abundance Movement. AbundanceMovement.io is the website. And basically, it's all about bringing people together around, because I believe the future of business is community. It's people coming together. So, in the traditional business world, we have an HR department, we have a CV, we have, we need to get a degree, we need to have qualification, we need to have experience before we get employed per se. This is the traditional model in the traditional HR, traditional corporate model. And, COVID, the actual COVID pandemic, people came back into homes. People came back into their family, their little bubble, so to speak, as the government's called it. And basically people came back to their values, their values and virtues of, being with family, being with their loved ones type of thing. And we had a whole shift in the way that people think about working in business. We had people moving to islands. We had people moving back out into the countryside type of thing, instead of being in the city and in the corporate kind of hierarchy, if you like. And so we had this big shift in my perspective in the paradigm. And, obviously when people went back to work, they had to go back to the current reality of things, which is get a mortgage, pay the mortgage, pay the rent, feed my children, clothe us and everything else like that. But the thing is, their heart, their purpose, is something that they started to think like, what's more outside of this? I've experienced this for the last 2 years during COVID, being with my family unit. Like back in the gold rush days, they said go to the city, come to America, come, you'll earn and everything else like that. And kids, men were brought up by females. They're brought up by their mothers because the fathers were out working, earning the gold, so to speak. And basically, that created a whole. I feel like we're going back to those times. We're going past the Industrial Revolution. We now have AI, and we have all these kind of technologies that can be used for destructive purposes of humanity, but they can also be used to really give humanity a chance to actually go back to virtually their caveman roots, so to speak, where they hunted and they gathered and they lived in community. So this is my world now, where I'm bringing people together around purpose and building community around that purpose.
Tell us how that works, Nick, can you? So how do you
Sure.
create this community? Do people pay to be part of this community? How does it operate?
So basically, we're in pre-beta launch right now, and basically we're using AI technology to match people together based on their virtues, their skills, their personalities, all this type of stuff. They go through like fun quizzes and fun interactive kind of gamification, but they're also earning as well. They're earning our real currency reward token when they do this kind of stuff. So because our platform, what the idea is we want to remove that survival layer. The survival layer, if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, and you think of self-actualization, and the base level that we need, which is, food, water, and basically shelter, those are kind of our like base levels. Part of that base level should be a monetary kind of survival level, if you like, because I feel like most people have a glass ceiling. They sit here and they think, and they're surrounded by their peers who are all, if they're working in McDonald's, then they feel like, that's all I can earn. I can't raise above that. Or, if they're CEO, I can't raise above that. Or, a property investor, and people who associate themselves with other people in that kind of level, if you like, they tend to have that glass ceiling at that level. And obviously we want to make sure that people have that survival level covered, so they earning from because we're taking them through a journey. We call it it's the abundance acronym, basically. It's an acronym. And the very first stage of that journey is awareness to change. Awareness to change your paradigm of how you perceive the world, because at the end of the day, it's just a perception of what is actually occurring from the angle that you're looking at it. And so if you can change your perception, you can change your glass ceiling, if you like. Sorry?
What's the rest of the acronym? So B, you got to word?
B, belief in yourself. Belief in yourself. So belief in yourself, and then unified vision, is the third part of our acronym. And so it goes through this kind of journey, this educational journey, and you can think of it like a choose your own adventure. I don't know if you ever read those books, like choose your own adventure books type of thing, where you could choose your own ending type of thing. So it's kind of like that, because the thing is, in the traditional educational system, it's very linear. It's very kind of syllabus based. You must learn this, you must do science, you must do math, you must do this, you must do the next thing, to have a well-rounded education. But the problem is with that education system is that it was built back in time, that with AI developments and, the jobs haven't even been created. We've got a massive skills gap, in the world today that is there's no one to fill those kind of skills. AI is taking over a lot of kind of how do I say, data input type of jobs, and all this type of stuff. And so we wanted to build an educational system that is non-linear. It's a way that people can choose what they want to do and show them how to create their own purpose, their own, because we believe whether you live in the slums in Africa or whether you're born in, into wealth, you have a gift within yourself. Everyone has a unique gift that they can monetize. I don't care who you are, whether you're in Africa or whether you're, wealthy. You have a gift that you can give to the world and to support people.
And presumably it's more than monetization, because I mean, that's one angle of looking at things. But we're also looking about the gift that actually gives you a sense of purpose, aren't you?
Yes, exactly. You see, like, very, what's his name? I can't think of his name now, but there's 7 buckets basically that you need to fill, in your life. One is health, one is spirituality, one is money. There's multiple different buckets, and you need to have a balanced life of all these buckets before you can, how do I say, transcend and awaken. In that kind of sense where you're actually, within your higher self, so to speak. And so our platform and ecosystem is all about that, showing you that path, but also giving you the tools and resources and finances to be able to build your purpose into something tangible that is going to create legacy wealth for you and your family.
So your vision for this platform is that thousands of people will join up at some point in time, and that actually you will be helping people direct their energies towards transforming their lives effectively.
Yeah, so it's already happening. It's so beautiful to see, because people, when they start to realize they actually have something that they can give to the world, that's the best thing. The best feeling in the world is when you have something that you can give that's going to give value to others. You can give that for free. It doesn't matter. It's the feeling that it gives you of seeing the impact or the results from those people. And
It comes back to sense of purpose again, doesn't it, Nick? So that's a very
exactly,
driver in all of this, is to have
everything.
meaning in our lives.
Most definitely. I feel like, if unless you have purpose, you're drifting.
Yeah.
You're drifting aimlessly through life the way social norms dictate. It's only when you decide to actually make that shift in your paradigm and your consciousness that you're now able to start thinking outside the box, so
Yeah.
to speak.
It's funny, when I was in 2018, it was the 50th anniversary of my school year that I'd been at. So I went to this anniversary, and all of us were 68 years old, and actually some of the people there were still vibrant and alive, and others felt like old men. And what I realized as I started to talk to people, because I thought this is an interesting experiment to see what's going on here, is the ones who had purpose, it wasn't the ones who'd made loads of money, it was the ones who'd actually found meaning in their lives, felt like their youthfulness was still there. So
$100%.
it's a powerful thing, isn't it, that happens.
Yeah, I think your metaphysical, chemical structures actually change in your body when you discover that purpose. There's been scientific experiments in that the actual, your brain, the synapses actually change based on your shift in the paradigm. So it actually shows real changes in the brain. Neural pathways, etc., etc.
So you're still, in my book anyway, you're still young and still sort of like at that stage of thrusting your way forwards, and so that there's a sort of sense that you've found your purpose. I can hear the passion and energy in it, and you've got this project which is about helping people achieve abundance, more than material abundance, but achieve abundance in their lives, and this is what you're investing all your time and energy into. Is that right now?
Yes, yeah. And the thing is, the material abundance flows into that as well, because every single thing on our platform is gamified in a way of actually earning real currency that you can check out of the system. And our vision of the project is to basically, we believe that every single person on this planet should have, at minimum, clean running water, a dry, warm roof over their head, and organic, GMO, pesticide-free food in their stomach. And our mission is to develop 3,000 100% net positive eco villages to fulfill this vision, if you like. And all our eco villages, all our real estate assets, everything that we're building as community is owned by the community. It's not owned by me. I am purely a visionary of this project,
That's
but
lovely.
everything is built and decentralized, so it's owned by the collective.
So when you say we, you've got partners who are part of this process.
Yeah, so I have four founding partners. One is based in the Philippines on a beautiful island of Palawan. He worked for BMW, Virgin, over 200 different big media brand companies type of thing, and he spoke on stages. He used to get like $100,000 at a speaking engagement. And him and I actually met through my partner Gina on Facebook, funnily enough, and we had a conversation, and he was creating in parallel the educational side of what I was creating in the, how do I say, the currency of happiness side of things. And it was just a perfect synergistic kind of connection, straight away. And it was incredible because when you have things in your life that natural occurrences that are just like, it can't be fluke type of thing, like a very rare Palawan peacock, for example, which hasn't been seen in like 20 years, suddenly appeared during our conversation. As these kind of things where we know that we're being led by something higher than just from a linear kind of business perspective. Do you know what I mean? So that was one of our partners. He had a purpose crisis, and he basically left all of that corporate world behind, even though he was earning good money, but he didn't have purpose, he didn't have fulfillment. And he went and lived as a nomad on this island of Palawan, helping the Palawanese kids and all of that type of stuff. And just, being a genuine great guy. He was, he was in Spider-Man, one of the Spider-Man movies, and he's been in, multiple. He used to be in films quite a lot. And yeah, just an incredible human being that had the educational side of what the purpose, basically, he calls himself the purpose brand expert type of thing. He had the perfect synergy with us. And then we have another incredible founder as well, who's a global top 10 CEO, Brian J. Esposito, and he's got over 200 companies in over 25 different industries. And he saw the power of what we're building and joined forces with us. And basically, he's looking to tokenize all of his 200 companies, which means basically, in layman's terms, that you can basically, instead of them being public companies on the New York Stock Exchange, you can actually get a token of these companies on the New York Stock Exchange, but a decentralized token, which means it can't be manipulated. It can't be, it doesn't have kind of shareholders per se. It's more of a kind of decentralized nodes type of thing. And everyone, decentralized ledger technology, DLT technology, is going to be huge, massive. It's considered to be a $16 trillion industry by 2030, according to McKinsey. And this is what we're tapping into with our real estate. So everyone can own a fraction of the underlying real estate assets that we're building. And basically, all those assets are owned by the collective, but it's completely decentralized, so it can't be manipulated or kind of anything like that. So that's one of our other partners. And then our other partner is my incredible partner Gina. She works for an incredible retreat company called Skiros, which I'm sure you are familiar with.
I work there regularly. Yes, yeah.
And yeah, she's also part of the project as well.
Yes, so you've found the right people, and Jung said that everything is synchronicity. So here you are, that the right people have shown up at the right time, and you're there. So it sounds like you've really got passion and energy for making something of your life that leaves a contribution effectively. So we're coming
Exactly.
towards the end of our podcast, and it's been really, really great talking to you. And I really love the youthful passion that you bring to these things as well. And the question I ask people at the end of the podcast, and I deliberately don't set it up in advance because I want it to just flow rather than to be planned, is what's the dragon you've had to slay in order to get to where you are right now? So just take
Uh,
a moment and breathe and just feel your way into that as well. What have you had to overcome?
my inner demons, my own inner demons, which are, you know, ego, ego. Ego is a major player that I had to slay because ego is something that you want to have accolades and you want to have this and you want to have all these kind of things, but at what cost? At what cost to humanity? At what cost to my relationships? At what cost to everything? So for me, slaying those demons within me, those childhood traumas, that kind of uh, told me I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that, or I wasn't good enough, or all those kind of voices in the back of your head that kind of creep in and say, "Oh, you're not good enough to do this. Like, who the hell are you?" That imposter syndrome type of thing. It's like even 6 months ago, you wouldn't catch me live on a podcast like this. It just wouldn't happen because I didn't feel like I had something to offer to the world.
I
That I
really hear,
wanted.
I hear you have something to offer, Nick, and I can see that this will grow. And we'll have you back when you've, as I said, it's expanding as well. So but I'd like to thank you very much for your contribution today and for being a part of this series. And I wish you loads of luck with what you're doing. And I really hear that you're looking at playing your own part in making a change in the world.
Most definitely, 100%. It's all about the environmental and social impact we can make. And, we're not just another opportunity or a platform. We're a movement. We're a movement for change in the world. So that's what
Well,
we're all
there's a
about.
saying that's nothing is so powerful as an idea whose time has come. So hopefully the time has come for your idea and your plan. Thank you so much, and it's been really, really good chatting with you today.
So
Appreciate it.
grateful. Thank you so much for the time, Malcolm. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.